for today, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the side of managing teams. And in chapter 11 is going to talk a little bit more about where are teams being made, how are teams being constructed in project management, and what kind of items do we need to use. So for today's conversation, we're heading out to Unit 11. This is the great U-turn that I've always been talking about, because last week we were in the middle of our term where we talk about estimates and we defined the project. We looked down organizations and strategy, and then we started doing the introduction 5 weeks ago. So we're basically a month and a week into our class and semester. And right now we're doing a great U-turn. And the great U-turn says to us that we're in unit number 11. And in unit number 11, our goal is to try to understand a little bit more on how teams are being formed and what kind of attributes do teams make in our daily lives, okay? The goal of this class, of course, is leadership and understanding the leadership roles in teams and making sure that within teams you have a good sense of where teams are headed and how they are made. And hopefully, when this is going to be done, a couple of things will be brought up. We're going to be talking about monitoring the progress a little bit more. We're going to be looking at understanding the idea of the project manager. What kind of definition can a project manager and leadership be? And understanding outsourcing, understanding project closure, and then, of course, the great return of RRCC, which is review, reflect, closure, and your careers. Okay. So that's where we are right now. And that's where we are going. So in today's conversation, we're going to identify key characteristics of high performance teams. How can you make a team that's highly performed? We're going to distinguish the different stages of team development. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the areas of development of the teams. We're going to understand the impact of situational factors have on a project team development, identify the stages for developing a high performance team, and distinguish between functional conflict and dysfunctional conflict. That will talk a little bit about describing strategies for encouraging to create a functional conflict within a team and eventually discourage a dysfunctional conflict. Okay. So again, throughout our semester, we talked a little bit about understanding what kind of conflict is good. And we understood that there are good conflicts. There are good conflicts available, okay? And within this week, there's also, of course, the midterm paper, and it deals with conflict. And possibly the conflict of, talking about the time, the schedule, the breakdown, issues about the team, that is a functional conflict. But if it turns to become dysfunctional, where people go after one another, it becomes a place where people are not being treated well. It can turn really ugly really quickly. Okay, so we have to understand the challenges of managing a virtual project team, recognizing the different pitfalls that could occur in a project team, and eventually making sure that you have a proper team altogether. So in our chapter outline for today, we're going to talk about the five-stage approach to a team development model. We're going to be talking about the stage of developing a proper team, setting it up. It's not just you want to pick a team randomly in the middle of the night. You want to pick a good team that is functional, workable, and doable. You want to look at different situational factors that will affect the team development and hopefully build on high performance project teams to make sure that your team is working in the best scenario. Okay. However, we also cannot ignore the fact that we are in the 21st century. In fact, we're in the 2020s, and we're dealing with remote and or virtual project teams. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're working with teams that are functional, that are doable, and nonetheless that have the right kind of characteristics that a good team will have in store. So we're going to talk about how teams are made, and nonetheless, we're going to talk about some what we call project team pitfalls, where sometimes you may have some situations where the team does not do well, and eventually there will be pitfalls over time, and you may have to work in a way that you know, there are going to be some slowdowns. There's going to be some anger. How do you deal with it? And what kind of things can we use? Okay. So, in today's conversation, in our objectives, hopefully we'll end up with identifying the roles of the project manager. Has they become a change agent in the project? What can they do to become a leader and create different change scenarios? We'll assess the dynamics of change and how it impacts the project team members, and the project management organization. We'll also identify different inputs and outputs and different tools, techniques for dealing with the customer change and change that dealing with project. And last but not least, we're going to also analyze the consequences of change by implementing approved changes and ensuring that any rejected changes within a team are not implemented within the project itself. So nonetheless, of course, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I'm also going to be throwing out a video for you guys, a very rare video as part of your participation. You are required to read over part number one, section 4.3, and part number one also of section 4.6 of a guide to project management body of knowledge. Normally, with the last 5 weeks, I would give you this and give you a little tidbit of it. Today, I'm just going to give you where it is, and I am hopeful or assuming that you have some access to the PM book, and hopefully you can gain some of this access altogether. Okay. Alongside it, there's also going to be the TED Talk video that I'm going to talk to you guys about. Building a tower, building a team, but Tom Wuyak. And the Tom Wuyak, he is the CEO of Autodesk, and he's going to talk a little bit about how to build a proper team and why does a project need a good team all together. Okay, so we're going to be looking at this as well. Along the readings and a TED Talk, we're going to hopefully provide some sufficient information to address major objectives of identifying the role of a project manager and making sure that we can identify the different attributes of project management and identify the different characteristics of change. Sorry, does somebody has the mic on? Hello? Does anyone have a Malad? Do you have a question? Hello, Malad? Nope. Okay. So along the reading and the TED Talk, we're going to give you some sufficient information to address major objectives of identifying the roles of a project manager as a change agent. So again, knowing the dynamics of change, how it impacts the change of the project, how does the project team understand input tools and techniques in dealing with change in a proactive manner, definitely goes a long way, okay? So we are number 6. Most of our conversation is going to be revolving about how to implement the communication management plan, sending the right information and making sure that the communication is received effectively and efficiently for project success. As you know, there are several communication factors. We call them the blockers on the communication. Communication blockers can include anything from noisy surrounding where you cannot function properly, distance between, of course, those trying to communicate the message that you're trying to convey, and improper coding or encoding of the message itself, making sometimes rude gestures or negative statements, being hostile to the environment you're in, creating different language groups and different culture sets of your team, and of course, making ways of good communication and good performance at the same time. Okay, so a lot of times project is including different things like status reports, progress reports, and trend reports. We're going to be talking about forecasting reports altogether. different variants, different reporting, earned value reporting, and any lessons being learned, and the documentation as well. Okay. And on a final note, just before we start our opening vignette, you are required to complete the midterm paper this week. This is the last week that you'll be able to do so, and please get it to me as soon as possible. Our learning activity is going to be offline for this round. This one is going to focus on the project manager as a change agent. So I'm going to give you a question, and you will respond on how, as a project manager, you will manage the dynamics of change to try to minimize the impact on a project teammates and the PMO office as well. Okay, so we're going to be talking about those in particular. Okay. But nonetheless, we're going to be looking at teams. We're going to focus on teams themselves and deciding on how do teams get formed, how they're made, and what kind of attributes can we use. So nonetheless, of course, high-performing teams is an essential part. When we look at high-performance teams, you have to create a good synergy. And usually if you have 5 members of a team, if you have a positive energy, what's going to happen is that everybody gives their percentage and their effort. And as a team, you're going to be getting 10 out of 10. Okay. You're going to be receiving that everybody does their part evenly, that there's communication, that there's harmony in the team, and that everybody enjoys working with one another. Okay. However, you do not want to be working in a negative surroundings. Working in negative surroundings usually has 1 or 2 people, and in this case, probably 1 person that does the work. Everybody else kind of piggybacks that individual, okay? And that individual is doing most of the work for the team. And unfortunately, as a result, there's only about 2% or 1/5 of the work being done, unfortunately, okay? And it doesn't make much sense altogether. So how can you make a high performance team happen? Okay. Well, some of the characteristics of a high performance teams are very similar. Okay. When you are working in a high performance team, you're going to be working in a scenario that's very, very common to your liking. First and foremost, you will share a sense of a common purpose. Okay. Everybody is on the same boat here. They are on the same boat. They have a common purpose, a common ideal. Everybody is here to make change and make effective use of their own talent and expertise. Okay, so that's where you as a project leader have to understand that you cannot bring, 5 specific individuals that have the same characteristics. You need some diversity. You need people in different fields. Okay, so if you're making a project for a new product, usually to make that product happen, you want to make sure that there are going to be different attributes that will deal with those particular situations. That means that you have to make use of accounting individuals, people in different scenarios, people in different areas, to make sure that those expertise are going to be it. You're also going to be balancing the roles and the shared tasks, okay? And making sure that those roles and shared tasks are going to be it, okay? So a lot of times the balancing roles and the shared tasks are going to be a important part of your scenario. They're going to be an important part of making sure that different balance and different roles are going to be it. And a lot of times there's also going to be a single synergy. Maybe I would say more of an energy towards problem solving. So everybody has the same emphasis on making sure that change will happen and that there will be a sort of situation or scenario on making sure that this is going to be it. You also will accept differences of opinions, and this is where a functional conflict will come very handy. You want to make sure that you will have different opinions and expressions being made throughout the role of a project. And some people will have different opinions, some people will have different expressions, and a lot of times these expressions are going to be very, very simple. You also will hopefully encourage risk taking and creativity, making sure that if people are creative, you want to give them that kind of scenario, the feel, to be creative as well. You want to encourage that people have different opinions and different, ways to express how they view risk. So again, you want to encourage it. You don't want to stop on it and make it as a scenario that it may not work for your company. Last but not least, you also set high personal standards. Make sure that you have some form of standardization. Make sure that you can identify both professional and personal growth, and hopefully accommodate those personal growth to see how people want to hopefully exceed not only in a project, but also in the company as well. You want to see that they are hopefully doing a good job and eventually are going to perform a lot of the task altogether. So what are the five-stage approach to forming and developing a team? Well, it's very, very simple. You have the objective from the project activity all the way to your group process, and every stage has a new onset. So in the first stage, what you will see is you're going to see formation of your team. So this is the team where you look at the orientation of the project. You sit down with your team members that you picked. You talk about the project, and then in the group process, you look at testing and dependencies, making sure that everything can connect the dots. When it can, what you can do from there on, you can look at stormation, okay, storming the project activity. Uh, Definitely ask them about, what the ideas of a project should be. Look at emotional responses to the demands of the project, and figure out things like intra-group conflicts that you will oversee altogether. Okay. And again, in intra-group conflicts, what you will also see is understanding the norms and making sure that within the norms, you have an open exchange of relevant information and relevant ideas that you can hopefully attain. And by that process, you look at the group ideas and be able to look at the development of group cohesions and making sure that the group itself can work together. The group is creating their own governance, their own rules, their own norms, and making sure that there are rules altogether. Okay, not just that you're part of a team, but you follow the team rules, okay? That you understand that there are consequences that will be given if there would not be work or deliveries that will be done. There will also be rewards, okay? Recognition for work that you will do, and eventually a little bit more of the different aspects of how this particular item can affect your company and affect your bottom line. So again, when you start to look at your performance, the idea you want to look for is from the development and the cohesion of the team. You want to create a performance, make sure that there will be some execution being done, some solutions, emergence to the major problems. And from that point on, you look at functional roles that will emerge, maybe some modifications and some change. And then last but not least, in step number 5, you can adjourn your project. You can finish the project altogether, dissolve the group, and hopefully make sure that the group is going to be done, completed, and hopefully situated proper on time. So there will be situational factors that will affect team development over time. There will be situations that you want to create a high performing team, but in many scenarios there will be conditions favoring the development of other teams as well. So in most conditions that want to create, based on these 5 steps, a high performing team, a lot of times the idea is you want to keep things very short and simple. Okay. The rule is there should be 10 or fewer members per team. Okay, we saw that in the Ajax project, there were 30 members. And to make things worse, 15 members were from one department, 15 members were from another department. So it created a lot of tension, created a lot of different scenarios, and created a situation where it was hard to work in. A lot of times you have to also remember that members do volunteer to serve on a project. They're not coerced to come in and forced to do the project. They have to make sure that they're willing to do what's needed. Members serve on the project from the beginning to the end, and they have to make sure that they do the most of it. Also, please remember the members are assigned to the project on a full-time basis. And what we are going to be doing right now is trying to understand a little bit more on how the teams are formatted. Nonetheless, members are definitely part of your company, and members are part of your overall organization. And much of the organizational culture should be fostered around good cooperation and good trust altogether. Also, please take into consideration the members report solely to the project manager. They have to create the kind of a hierarchy on where they have to, talk to the right individuals should they have a problem, instead of talking to, say, a operational manager and asking them what their opinion is on a project that they have nothing to do about. So they look at all relevant functional areas that are represented on the team. And of course, the project involves making sure you have a compelling objective, making sure the members are located within the conversational distance of each other, and eventually creating a good harmony altogether. So a lot of times when you start to look over building a high performance project team. The idea is you want to find the right individuals all together. By finding the right individuals all together, the idea you want to create here is you want to recruit the right members. And if you want a high performance team, you have to recruit 10 individuals from different diversity departments, and also make sure that they are willing to do it, that they're forced to do it, willing to join your team and become part of your organizational backbone. So again, what we are focusing on is recruitment, recruiting the right team members. So you're going to sit down with them. You're going to talk about the project. You're going to conduct project meetings, establish different identities, creating a shared vision, building a rewarding system altogether, managing decision-making process, looking at different conflicts and rejuvenating the team. And when you recruit them, sit down with them and talk about the team. Then you look at their performance and you want to make sure that they have superior performance altogether and a good backbone on what those performances might be looking like. So you put them all as needed, and from that point on, you're going to be making sure that you can recruit the project members and make sure that they can do a good job altogether. So some factors affecting recruitment are very simple. You want to make sure that based on superior performance in team recruitment, you hope that you want to make sure that they have some ownership or importance on what the project is. You want to make sure that management has a good structure to make sure that you can complete the project, meaning that they have the right funds, the right support for you and your teammates. You want to take into consideration that there is a need to be factored into the recruitment process. So you want to make sure that there are problem solving abilities, that there are different availabilities of resources, that you have subject matter experts, people who have some technological expertise. They back themselves up. They have credibility. Sometimes maybe political know-how, different ambitions, initiatives, and energy altogether. And nonetheless, of course, familiarity with the project so that they know exactly what to do, how to execute it, and complete it successfully without any given problems altogether. So when you're conducting project meetings and making sure that everybody's role is easy and okay to understand, the first project team meetings, the first few things you do is create a project kickoff. Okay, so you start to get to know everybody. You start to understand what they like, what they don't like, what can they do for your organization and your project, and then you create the team norms. Okay, you establish ground rules. The ground rules are going to be for everybody, not just for you or for one person, but you establish different ground rules altogether. You plan your decision, how it's going to be made, how you are going to be undertaking these development areas. You track different decisions over time. You want to make sure that you can, hopefully create a dashboard so that the tracking could be made and decisions could be held. You also want to manage your change decisions. Make sure that everybody, when decisions are made, you want to make sure that the decisions are going to be relevant. Create relationships within those decisions. Create a reason why we're making those decisions and outcomes all together. And of course, manage ongoing subsequent project meetings and make sure that those project meetings are going to be in place all the time. Then, of course, you establish the team norms. And when you establish team norms altogether, you will make sure that everybody will agree on your rules and outcomes. So confidentiality is maintained. No information is shared outside the team unless you agree on it. So a lot of times the secrecy of the project should be that all members of the team know about it. And of course, they have to make sure that they abide with it. It is also acceptable to be in trouble, okay? Meaning that when you made a mistake, and we saw before, even in Power Corp, and in some cases, when you really dissect a little bit further into Ajax, you could be in problem. You could be in trouble. Okay, it's not a problem. Okay, it is acceptable to raise your hand, say, "I just don't get it. I don't understand what's going on in the project. I need help." Okay, but what is not acceptable is surprising somebody else with the news. Okay, and telling the person in the last minute that you have a problem. Okay, and a lot of people, and it's not just maybe it's you altogether. Maybe it's somebody else. You've seen a lot of situations where people kept it to themselves, thinking that the problem would just erode somewhere else. And let's assume that this is your first or second project. You volunteered to be in a project, but then you realize that you lack a lot of skills. And because of that, you're going to be not meeting deadlines. Okay. So if you have this problem and you keep silent, thinking that, the parallels of the universe will come together and help you, guys, it doesn't. Okay. It doesn't. And it's not acceptable to surprise other people with your woes. Okay. So tell others immediately when deadlines or milestones will not be reached. And hopefully, the idea here is that if it happens once or twice, I can get it. I can understand what's going on. It's not a huge problem. But if it happens frequently, and if it happens to the point where there's going to be a scenario where you're constantly late, then it's not acceptable. Okay, so surprising somebody else with your lateness, surprising somebody else with not meeting milestones will not be taken very easily. Okay, if you tell somebody 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance, listen, we got something to do in the end of March. I just cannot finish it. Okay. There's no situation that I will be able to complete it on time. And there's reasons why. Okay, then we have a situation we can help you. We have a situation where we can work together and make sure that some situations can be fixed. Okay. What is not acceptable, unfortunately, is being in trouble. And what is more not acceptable is surprising others and telling others immediately that you are not able to finish the work. Okay. So a lot of times, if you are going to surprise somebody on, Friday afternoon when they expect to have a report, you say, "Listen, I can't finish a report because I lack all these knowledges," then of course you are not making yourself a good individual altogether. Okay. Again, this is one of the norms that you have to make here. Also, you have to make a norm on zero tolerance for mobbing and bullying other people as a way to go through a problem or an issue. So again, if somebody does not understand something or does not lack the same skills as you do not bully them together and just say, "Well, the only way that I can win a conversation is through argument." Okay, there's no argument that's been won ever through arguing with someone and yelling. And you can definitely have some kind of different examples from it. But definitely there should be no yelling at other people for the sake of trying to get something done. Okay, everybody is on the same page, and there should be zero tolerance for those scenarios. Okay, we want to have a conflict that is functional, and definitely you can agree to disagree here. But when decisions has been made and everybody is on the same page, don't go back, irregardless of personal feelings, and move forward. So that means that if somebody tells you that your idea is not good, let it go. You let it go. Okay. You don't just hold it in grudges and say, well, the team is against me. Everyone doesn't like me. I'm going to make a little bit of a stink. And nonetheless, of course, I'm not going to work in a good, healthy way with my team. Okay. You're not becoming a good team member. And definitely, you're not showing the right attributes here. Please also remember to respect other people here. Please remember that whenever you respect other people and do not flaunt on the other members altogether, you make sure that you respect other people and you do not, talk about your position and the fact that you have higher powers than them. You are on the same page when it comes to a project, and the goal is to complete a project successfully and make sure that everything could be done all together. Okay. Definitely also please remember to respect other people, and respect other people altogether, and make sure that those individuals basically will agree to disagree, but also respect others and do not flaunt one position on the project team. They never say that, you're better than them. Okay. And definitely remember also that hard work does not get in the way of having fun. Don't think that a project is the end all be all. Think of a project as a fun situation to get to know each other, get to like one another, and eventually have some fun, relax a little bit. And when milestones are achieved, reward each other. Okay. There's a restaurant called Milestones. Go there. Okay. Have some fun, get a drink, get some nachos. I don't know, whatever you like, but have some fun and enjoy the success of a project. Okay. So in most projects, you want to establish team identity early on. Establishing team identity is creating team culture. And by that is making sure you have effective use of meetings. Again, meetings are important. Meetings take time. And as we develop and on work breakdown structure and work packages, every single minute, every single second costs the team money. Okay. So if you're coming to a meeting and you're not being cooperative, or you're not being productive, you're going against the team norms and team identities. So try to be effective on the team meetings. Co-location of team members should be important. Create a project name, a title, maybe, cool name, cool team names. And that's why when we created a project, norm, one of the things that we did is create a project name for you guys. So and when we created a project name, we created the creation of your team. Okay. And I gave you guys an option to create a team name. You can call this a BSI 361 freeze, or you can create your name however you would like. But the scenario here is to get the teams to build or do something together early on that hopefully creates team norms, team rituals, and the team organization altogether. Okay. So there should be a requirement as a project leader to create a project vision here. Whenever you create a project vision, the idea that you want to create here is to make sure that every major task should align together. Okay. So when you create a major task, you want to make sure that you can, number one, in order to create the vision of your perfect project, you want to create a good communication. Okay. Make sure that everybody creates a strategic sense of purpose altogether. Create a passion that everybody's on the same page, and inspire others. So when you create, for example, passion, you want to create strategic sense. You want to communicate that passion to other people and inspire other people to your passion. Okay. You want to inspire other people, make sure that they understand what is going on, make sure that they know exactly how to manage a team, and most importantly, how to reward everybody all together. Now, let's of course, please remember that whenever you work in a project and people volunteer, there's a reason why. And maybe they have passion, maybe they want to be inspired or inspire others. They have a strategic purpose and a good communication that you want to bring to the table. So when you look down the path of a project, a lot of times that path will show you light on how the project vision will be required. Okay. So whenever you look at managing a project rewarding system, the idea here is you want to create the reward system that encourages team performance and extra effort. Okay. So the rewarding system says to you that you want to reward people for coming and joining your team. Most project managers advocate the use of rewards. So milestones will be rewards, recognizing people. Even we saw with Tran, he did recognize people who found glitches. He didn't just sit idle and said, okay, good, you found it, nice. I'm just going to take responsibility. No, he actually went in and figured out exactly what the reward should be. Okay, giving people some recognition, some kind of you know some level up to make sure that those norms could be made. Okay. There's also the increased value of rewards. Okay. Rewards need to have a lasting effect, a lasting significance, making sure that you are giving the right kind of attributes to them, making sure that some project managers have to use what we call negative reinforcements to motivate project performance. And of course, there are going to be times where we need to reward individual performance examples and make sure that we can include different rewards that could be made altogether. Okay. So some of the rewards that you can see, for example, that project managers can give can easily be a letter of recommendation. Okay. LOR, I call it. If you want LOR after you finish your project, definitely I'll give you one. Okay. LOR goes a long way. Okay. You can be promoted. You can be working at different assignments. You can also be going into another project. Okay. So a lot of times when you go into more advanced projects, they want to see that you have experience. Okay. And if you have experience working in my project, they can say, well, you worked on this project altogether, and I could definitely bring you on to do projects. Also, take into consideration that these letters of recommendations can be able to use for the project assessments, and definitely when you are going to hopefully be promoted or even looking for pay raise, this is a good sign to use. You also want to look at different public recognition of outstanding work. People want to be recognized for the work they did, and making sure that there will be public recognition for different outstanding works. So being used in a plaque, being talked about in the media, journals and articles being written, and you reference, individual project members on it, definitely goes a long way. You can also be assigned to new projects and new assignments in the company as well. And definitely, it can be very flexible when you create a project team altogether. So what I want to do right now is an experiment. Every year in February, what I do is, well, if the project is going to be in, sorry, if this particular class is going to be in February, I want to test if a video works for you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a commercial. Of course, I'm not sure commercial doesn't work right now, but I'm going to show you a new commercial to see if it works and to see if you, number one, can hear it, and number two, you can see it. Okay. Because if you can hear it, you can see it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the video that I want to show you in our class. Okay. So let's do a test. Okay. Let's watch a video from the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was on Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and Kansas City luckily won. Thank God for that. I'm not sure if, you know, I'm not sure if the other way around would be fair. But I'm going to show you a video from what we call the Super Bowl ads. Basically, if you don't like the Super Bowl, I mean, I'm not big. I just got into football recently. I probably, when I was younger, the only thing I cared about, I cared mostly about in this retrospect, I cared mostly about two things: the halftime show, which featured Rihanna this year, and also the commercials. Okay, and one of the commercials that they had was a commercial for I think Doritos or a chip company called Pringles or something, or Popcorners, which featured Breaking Bad. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is two things. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna pop up the commercial to see if it works. 1 second. All right, it works here. Good. And I'm gonna also talk about TED Talk with Tom Wuyak. And I want the original TED Talk by Tom Wuyak. Hold on. TED Talk, build a tower, build a team. Yes, that's the one. Okay. So if the video works for you guys and it's going okay, then for sure everything else is going well as needed. Okay. So hold on. I'm just going to hold on. Just give me 2 seconds.
Sir, the Dunkin' Donuts commercial was way better.
The Dunkin' Donuts. I beg to differ, but we'll see where it goes. Okay. Well, 1 second. I'll just look at it. All right. So I had a little bit of dispute, a functional conflict with Mari. Mari said that J-Lo and what's her little boy toy? Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck, they made a better commercial. All right. So I'll give you a little bit of treat. We'll show you both commercials. Dunkin' Donuts, which doesn't exist in Canada, and the Super Bowl ad. We'll see what goes on here. I never seen it. I missed it. Okay. But let's see if I can find it for you guys. Dunkin' Donut, full commercial. All right. Let's see if it works here. Okay. All right. So we'll see. We'll decide as a team which commercial is better. Okay, Dunkin' Donut or this one. Okay, so I'm gonna show you both of them. I'm gonna show you the extended version of mine, and then I'll show you the other version that's needed. Okay, so give it 2 minutes. Okay, I have it open. So Popcorners. Here's the first one. Let me see if it works for you guys. 1 second. Go Chiefs. Yes. So let's see if it works. I'm gonna share my sound. Okay, and you guys tell me if you can see the video, the sound, and if the video is running smoothly. If it runs smoothly on 2 occasions, we're good. If it doesn't, we got to go back and fix it. So let's look at the first one. It's Dunkin' Donut. Sorry, Breaking Bad. Popcorners, Breaking Bad. And this is the video. Take a look at it and let me know what you see and think about it. Enjoy.
When I was young, I spent all of my days in search of love. But when
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Good. All right. If a thumbs up, it's good.
Mr.
Good.
White, these are the bomb.
And they're air popped, not fried.
Popcorners. You're an artist. This is art.
Actually, Jesse, it's just basic ingredients. No, we don't eat our own supply.
Mr. White!
Jesse.
Everyone's gonna want to taste. And I know just the guy to talk to.
What are these?
We call them popcorners.
Say their name.
Popcorners! Type! Yeah! How much of this stuff do you have?
We've got 6 signature flavors, Joe.
7! You make 7!
7.
7 works.
We're gonna eat a lot of snacks together.
Popcorners. Break into something good.
All right.
I am the one who snacks.
Interesting. All right. So that is the first one. Mary, however, said that there's a better one called the J-Lo and Dunkin' Donuts. Let's see that one as well. And let's test our voice and screen here. 1 second. Exit full screen. Ben Affleck. All right. Ben Affleck and J-Lo added again. Let's see if this one works. Hold on. I'm just going to make sure that there's sound. All right, here's the second one. Let me know if this one works as well. You can see it. It doesn't buffer, doesn't do any problems. Take a look. Oops.
Small black tea, no sweetener.
You could have that, but like, why not sweeten your life up a little bit?
I mean, you could choose to have no sweetness in your life or some joy.
What would you like, ma'am? Joy or misery?
Joy's good.
You do want joy. Is that joy in the form of splendor or joy in the form of equal?
Just like no sweet.
You're insisting on darkness.
Yes, please.
Trying to help you live your best life.
What the heck?
Welcome to Dunkin' and new special. Dunkin' run medium or large coffee. Get a donut for an incremental $1. Like, how can it be this inexpensive and good?
Pretty no sugar.
I was gonna have to just give you 10 munchkins. You look a little lost. 1 second, I'm trying to find the bagels. Do I look familiar?
Oh.
Should I be in it, or do you want just a self-portrait?
What are you doing here?
Harassing me in front of
Is
my
this what
friends.
you do when you say you're going to work all day?
I gotta go, guys.
Grab me a glazed.
Welcome to Medford, Massachusetts, Duncan. Scenic Medford. Why travel when you're already there? That's our slogan. You can have whatever you want for free.
Oh, I know you, Ben Affleck, brother.
Get out of here. I'm struggling. I'm gonna spill it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't make it function. Malfunction. Not as easy as it looks operating this apparatus a bit.
Medium hot black.
We're out of coffee.
Oh, you're out of coffee.
Yeah, we get no coffee and no donuts.
What do you got?
Water.
You're me.
I'm trying to compensate with comedy for my ineptitude. Hi, what can I do for you?
Oh my God.
Dunkin' run medium or large coffee, get a donut for an incremental $1. Are you interested?
I'm gonna
ask you to please take the deal, sir.
You need me to
Right now, sir, I want you to take the Dunkin' run. Double sausage, turkey sausage, egg and cheese, maple sugar, bacon, black, peppercorn.
Are you all right this morning?
I'm coming unglued. How have you been, all right? How's your mother?
Good.
Father, all right?
It's even better.
Good. All right, I'll see you around.
All right, take it easy.
Not your typical Dunkin' technician. Usually they're much smarter than you.
4 glazed donuts.
Come in hot, looking for 4 glazed.
Bacon, egg, and cheese, and a croissant.
Bacon, egg, and cheese. Bing, boom, boom, yeah.
Strawberry donut.
Can I just give you a churro?
So you're gonna get my tea in there though?
This is like a trust fall. You don't see what you ordered, but you just fall backwards into my arms, metaphorically speaking, of course. Come on down, partner.
Medium hot black with caramel.
We're out of coffee.
Oh. Oh, you're out of coffee.
Yeah, we got no coffee and no donuts.
All right, let me do.
And we got no sandwiches and no muffins, and no cold brew, espresso teas, winter beverages, frozen, cooladas.
What do you got?
Water.
You're me.
Wait, yeah, I work on commission, bro. Bing.
There he is.
What's coming up?
Oh.
I'm not your typical Dunkin' technician. Usually I'm much smarter than you.
All right. Okay.
That
So
seemed to
I
be
guess
like
that was
an extended
that was
version.
it. That was the extended version.
It seems the one I saw ended with J-Lo.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Jello was in the beginning. Okay, but you guys saw it. You guys came. You guys conquered, and you guys saw the videos. Okay, no problems.
Yeah, they're
Oh.
okay. Sorry.
Jai, did you see it okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, awesome. All right, perfect. Okay, so we're on a roll here, okay? If you want to see the old version as well, I'm gonna update it today, but if you do want to see the old version, it's right here. But nonetheless, guys, let's take a break, okay? And then we're back. I'm going to show you the video, okay? So take a break, take 10. The time right now is 7:05. Take 10 take 10 minutes until 7:15. And please be back at 7:15 and we will restart. Don't leave VR class. Okay. See you soon and have a good one. Take care. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys for taking a break, and thanks you guys for joining us as always. So going forward, I have a video I would like to present to the class. The video is called "Building a Team, Building a Tower, Building a Team." It's by Tom Wuyak. Tom Wuyak is a CEO of a company called Autodesk, and what he's going to talk to you guys about is he's going to give you guys a brief overview of how project leaders and project managers, as well as different leaders just in general, understand a little bit more about what kind of scenario they need to become really good leaders in the future. So nonetheless, I'm gonna share my screen with you guys again with a sharing screen and sharing sound, and making sure that it would work for you. Okay, so once again, guys, pay attention over to Tom Wuyak, and Tom Wuyak will show you a little bit with, I'm going to give you some subtitles too, a brief overview on building a tower, building a team. Okay, let me know if it works. Thumbs up is always nice to see. And here you guys go. Enjoy.
Several years ago here at TED, Peter Skillman introduced a design challenge called the Marshmallow Challenge. And the idea is pretty simple. Teams of 4 have to build the tallest freestanding structure out of 20 sticks of spaghetti, 1 yard of tape, 1 yard of string, and a marshmallow. And the marshmallow has to be on top. And though it seems really simple, it's actually pretty hard because it forces people to collaborate very quickly. And so I thought this was an interesting idea, and I incorporated it into a design workshop, and it was a huge success. And since then, I've conducted about 70 design workshops across the world with students and designers and architects, even the CTOs of the Fortune 50. And there's something about this exercise that reveals very deep lessons about the nature of collaboration, and I'd like to share some of them with you. So normally, most people begin by orienting themselves to the task. They talk about it, they figure out what it's going to look like, they jockey for power, then they spend some time planning, organizing, they sketch in, they lay out spaghetti. They spend the majority of their time assembling the sticks into ever-growing structures, and then finally, just as they're running out of time, someone takes out the marshmallow, and then they gingerly put it on top, and they stand back, and ta-da! They admire their work. But what really happens most of the time is that the ta-da turns into an uh-oh, because the weight of the marshmallow causes the entire structure to buckle and to collapse. So there are a number of people who have a lot more uh-oh moments than others. And among the worst are recent graduates of business school. It's amazing. They lie, they cheat, they get distracted, and they produce really lame structures. And of course, there's teams that have a lot more ta-da structures. And among the best are recent graduates of kindergarten. And it's pretty amazing, as Peter tells us. Not only do they produce the tallest structures, but they're the most interesting structures of them all. So the question you want to ask is, how come? Why? What is it about them? And Peter likes to say that none of the kids spend any time trying to be CEO of Spaghetti Inc., right? They don't spend time jockeying for power. But there's another reason as well. And the reason is that business students are trained to find the single right plan, right? And then they execute on it. And then what happens is when they put the marshmallow on top, they run out of time, and what happens? It's a crisis. Sound familiar, right? Okay. What kindergartners do differently is that they start with the marshmallow and they build prototypes, successive prototypes, always keeping the marshmallow on top. So they have multiple times to fix, and they build prototypes along the way. So designers recognize this type of collaboration as the essence of the iterative process. And with each version, kids get instant feedback about what works and what doesn't work. So the capacity to play and prototype is really essential, but let's look at how different teams perform. So the average for most people is around 20 inches, business school students, about half of that, lawyers, a little better, but not much better than that, kindergartens, better than most adults. Who does the very best? Architects and engineers, thankfully. And 39 inches is the tallest structure I've seen. And why is it? Because they understand triangles and self-reinforcing geometrical patterns are the key to building self-reinforced stable structures. So CEOs, a little bit better than average, but here's where it gets interesting. If you put an executive admin on the team, they get significantly better. It's incredible. You know, you look around, you go, oh, that team's going to win. You can just tell beforehand. And why is that? Because they have special skills of facilitation. They manage the process. They understand the process. And any team who manages and pays a close attention to work will significantly improve the team's performance. Specialized skills and facilitation skills, the combination leads to strong success. If you have 10 teams that typically perform, you'll get maybe 6 or so that have standing structures. And I tried something interesting. I thought, let's up the ante once. So I offered a $10,000 prize of software to the winning team. So what do you think happened to these design students? What was the result? Here's what happened. Not one team had a standing structure. Not one had, if anyone had built, say, a 1-inch structure, they'd have taken home the prize. So isn't it interesting that high stakes have a strong impact? We did the exercise again with the same students. What do you think happened then? So now they understand the value of prototyping. So the same team went from being the very worst to being among the very best. They produced the tallest structures in the least amount of time. So there's deep lessons for us about the nature of incentives and success. So you might ask, why would anyone actually spend time running a Marshmallow challenge? And the reason is I help create digital tools and processes to help teams build cars and video games and visual effects. And what the Marshmallow Challenge does is it helps them identify the hidden assumptions. Because frankly, every project has its own marshmallow, doesn't it? The challenge provides a shared experience, a common language, a common stance to build the right prototype. And so this is the value of the experience of this so simple exercise. And those of you who are interested may want to go to marshmallowchallenge.com. It's a blog that you can look at how to build the marshmallows. There are step-by-step instructions on this. There are crazy examples from around the world of how people tweak and adjust the system. There's world records that are on this as well. And the fundamental lesson, I believe, is that design truly is a contact sport. It demands that we bring all of our senses to the task and that we apply the very best of our thinking, our feeling, and our doing to the challenge that we have at hand. And sometimes a little prototype of this experience is all that it takes to turn us from an uh-oh moment to a ta-da moment, and that can make a big difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I hope that was of interest and definitely something to look into. But moving forward, I do want to, that's cool, yeah. And they do it all the time, Mary. They do it all the time where you do a challenge where they actually bring in a set of SpaghettiOs and so forth, and your goal is to build the highest one. But the idea behind it is not that you're going to build the highest one. The idea is who is the leader, how are you going to do it, how are you going to plan it, okay, and what kind of situation you want, okay. And you'll be surprised, like a lot of people, they do lack, leadership skills. They do lack, understanding the whole idea of, even though maybe you never done, structural design before, and that's fine. They do lack the whole idea of putting things together and organizing themselves properly, okay? So you never know. But definitely, if you go out there, there's a lot of team effort building exercises, and this is one of them, okay? Where you are going to be put on team, and they want to analyze how well you interact with the team members and what can you do to give them the right impact all at once. All right, moving forward, guys, I want to talk about the learning activity early on. It's not an in-class discussion. I'm going to give you time to complete it elsewhere, okay? But what I want you guys to do is, along with attending a class, learning activity number 6, you guys will be project managers as change agent, and that was the idea. So change agent is on planning, improving, measuring, executing, making sure you can engage with your team, and hopefully creating a right environment altogether. So in our in-class discussion and our learning theory for today, and I'll give you guys the whole week to complete it if need be, individuals will identify themselves with a particular change process. Change process can be an IT change, so you're going from one server to the next, or one software to another software. That can be a project. A framework change where you create a good standing idea on different changes, policy changes, where possibly you have a policy that's coming into effect March the 1st. So you have like a couple of days, I would say like 10, 12 days, 13 days left to complete the policy change. Possibly cultural change, okay? Maybe you're creating a new culture that you want in your company. That could be a change, or even strategic change, okay? Any change is welcome. And the idea here is to discuss the manner the day will happen, the dynamics within the project management office. And the idea is to avoid the impact of changes within a project team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some time to look over it, and I'm going to write it into our important activities for today, and hopefully read it over and eventually be able to answer that question in our class. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave that for you guys. It will be due. What's today? Today is the 15th. It will be due on the 22nd. Okay. So please finish it on time, deliver it. I'm going to mix it up now with your attendance. So if you show up to class, you're attending, you know what's going on, you know I talked about this, then definitely you'll get the fuller marks on it. Okay. Any questions about learning activity? It's to be submitted by February 22nd. Any questions?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, Jai.
How many paragraphs? A page?
It's the same learning activity that we done all the time. It should be
Okay.
about less than about maybe 3 paragraphs, a page
Okay.
maximum.
Thank you very much.
Don't go to mile here. It's basically a quick question and understanding what the scenario might be.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Just see a thumb up from Mana. Thank you, Mana. All right. Other than that, we're also going to be talking about decision-making processes within teams. And a lot of times when we're going to talk about orchestrating the decision-making process, we're going to talk about facilitating different groups on the decision-making that involves the major steps. And the major steps that I created on making the decision, like we made a team, we have steps in making a team. We also have steps in making the decision, because maybe, and again, let's come back to Trent and Ajax. He may not have made the right steps, and nobody realized that. So when you understand the problem, okay, you first want to identify the problem together. And I would say if you were a good catch on the Trent midterm, you may have realized that he missed out on that. He missed out on identifying problems. He missed out on generating alternatives. Basically, he realized that the first and second alpha test was a failure. What did he do? Well, we're just going to go into it. Maybe you could have done an alternative. Maybe you could have listened to your individuals. Okay. I'm not saying that the project was doomed since the start. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying that Trent could have done a little bit more to fix the project altogether, and hopefully come to a consensus, reach a decision with your teammates. Okay. Your teammates are, completely diversified. You have hardware engineers, which are like, 50-year-olds, working in a company for like 20, 30 years. Then you have like these motley crew guys, 20-year-olds. You have to reach a consensus with them. Okay. And make sure that everybody is on the right page. You also want to follow up. You also want to follow up with individuals. Make sure that by following up, you can create a good scenario and make sure that those scenarios are in place. Okay. Nonetheless, of course, managing conflict within a project is very, very common. We mentioned that conflicts are good. They're healthy. Let us have conflicts. Don't be shy of having conflicts. You have a problem with me? Raise your hand. Okay. Don't be shy. But the only thing I don't ask is don't take off my head. Okay. Don't dismember me. Okay. Don't create mutiny in this class, and don't create a situation where it makes it uncomfortable to come to class in the beginning. So whenever we manage a conflict problem, we want to encourage functional conflict. Let us have functional conflict. Let us say, I just don't agree with this scenario. Let us talk about it. Okay. So a functional conflict plays a critical role in obtaining a deeper understanding of why, hows, and is, on understanding the issues and coming up with the best scenario, the best decision as much as possible. Okay. So project managers can even legitimize dissent within a team by designing someone to play the role of devil's advocate. And when we look at the advocate, um, the person that comes there will basically give you some advice and will basically be designed of giving you what do you think about it and then seeing what the reaction of the group might be. You also want to ask the group to take maybe about 15, 20 minutes or so to come up with all the reasons that the team should or should not pursue the course of action. So they'll come together and in a healthy environment, they will come together and say that this environment is going to be the best environment that we will be talking about, the right environment that we will be pursuing our course of action, and basically how this scenario will be dealt with altogether. Okay. And nonetheless, of course, when we want to have a functional conflict, we want to manage a conflict, but again, we do not want a dysfunctional conflict. Dysfunctional conflict is mutiny. People are creating their territories, people are on different sides of the project. The project is not healthy. Okay. The question now is, the trend and this project become dysfunctional? I would say yes, but to what certain point? Okay. And a lot of times, if this conflict you realize was dysfunctional, you can mediate the conflict. Okay. Try to see if there's like a middle edge here. You can bring in an arbitrator to decide your own fate on where the project is going. You can also control the project, okay? Control the conflict and make sure that the conflict is easily handled. Also, do not deny that there's a conflict. Don't come, every single day that you realize that the conflict is nice and sturdy. It's not, it's a problem, and we have to attack it. You want to accept the conflict, okay? Accept it for what it is, and try to eliminate the conflict as much as possible, okay? So the sources of conflict are very similar. When you look at conflicts, uh, usually in the beginning of a project lifecycle, you have the definition. Okay, when you define a project, again, please remember that many projects are done by pieces of paper. Everything is written and nothing is a realistic outcome. So things like priorities, what should we do first, what should we do second, the procedures, the schedules will always be a conflict. Okay, can we do it? How can we do it? And is this a problem? And then later on, when you look at other different conflicts, they become a little bit bigger. Okay, so we still have priorities. There will be a problem in the planning stage. Schedules will still be a problem in planning and putting it all together. There will be conflicts, and people will agree in definition, but in planning, they will say, I don't think so. Now that I see it, it's coming into May and June. I got a lot of projects, plus I want to take some time off. Okay. And then, of course, they will deal with different procedures like we had before. But then it becomes a little bit even more problem where you realize that, you need technical skills. Okay. You need people who are specialists. Could have Trent brought in a technical specialist? He did bring an HR person, but he never brought in a technical specialist. It became a problem. So a lot of times technical expertise and the workforce, the amount of people you need is going to be an important conflict that will hopefully arise in the project lifecycle and planning. Then afterwards, priorities are still important, okay, and all the necessary items like workforce and technical skills, but procedures are done. Your procedure is already there. It's there and set. You cannot move away. So I will give Trent hats for still pursuing the alpha 1, 2, and 3 testing because that was the procedure, okay, and we agreed on it, and it was done in definition and planning, so we cannot walk away from it. But definitely schedule, even in the execution stage, people were complaining on schedules. Okay, they agreed on it in a definition, they agreed on it in planning, everyone was happy. But then when they did not achieve the success that they wanted, what did they do? They complained on it. They were like, well, it's not good enough for me. Okay, and guys, it's the same in my class, don't get me wrong. Okay, a lot of times people are really happy with the set schedule. In fact, the reason why they like my class a little bit better, I'm going to give it to you guys, is I tell you guys everything in the beginning, in front of you guys. Okay. I tell you everything like weeks in advance. Why? I don't want to surprise you, a week later and tell you it's due. Okay. However, there's still people who will come up to me and say, well, listen, week 11, I just cannot finish the project and I need week 12. And I tell you, brother, sister, friend, uncle, aunt, I can't help you here. Okay. There's no week 12, guys. Okay. We're done in week 11. So that means, unfortunately, that we need the items as soon as possible. If we cannot get it, it could be a problem. Okay. So this is a very important problem, and definitely in delivery stage, this is a point of no return. So priorities are not going to be a problem anymore. Your workforce is already done. They completed, headed off the project according to what you wanted. Technical skills are done. And the only problem right now is schedules. Can we be sure we can deliver? Do we need more testing? Do we need maybe a couple more alpha 5, 6, 7 tests to be done? Who knows? But definitely getting it to the final customer, in this case, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, it may take some time. And because of that, there will be some problems down the line. So please make sure that you can mitigate it in the future. Okay. Come back to me and definitely let me know that you can do it. But now let's get again, guys. It's not about conflict and not about bad teams or good teams, but you as a leader, you need to rejuvenate the teams. You need to massage your teams all together. Make sure that the teams like each other and hopefully team members can work together. Okay. And a lot of times you want to make sure you have informal techniques. Okay. You want to institute new rituals. Okay. For example, again, I'm not condoning or condemning drinking, but listen, every Friday, let's go out as a team, have some dinner, go out and celebrate some milestones. Every week, there's a new milestone we made. And guys, those who live in the GTA, Ari, I'm talking about you especially. Milestones. Let's go to milestones, guys. Okay, go to milestones. There's a name we call milestones, and the reason why there's milestones, we have milestones in life, whether it's a graduation, whether it is a anniversary or Valentine's Day, you go to milestones. And definitely milestones is a good situation that you want to go into where, you finish something good, have a ritual, have a drink, toast, let's say, congratulations, l'chaim, whatever it is, but just have good milestones. Okay, make sure that it's a ritual. Make sure, for example, that every, I don't know, Wednesday mornings we have meetings. Like we have meetings today, you and I. Let's go out and let's have some like bagel lunches or whatever. Let's have some, some morning breakfast. Okay, rituals. Okay, keep those rituals alive, and those are very informal. Okay, show the team an inspirational movie. So again, this is the reason why I showed you this movie. Well, not movie, but I showed you this specific show or specific TED Talk. It was inspirational. Okay, Tom Wooyak is a leader. Tom Wooyak proved himself in Autodesk. Okay, I follow Autodesk. Okay, so the way that Tom Wooyak explained it was that he explained the scenario of building a team by building a tower. You build a tower, you build a team. Perfect. Okay. How do you feed the village? Well, build a bridge, whatever it is. But it's inspirational. Okay. It gets you moving, gets you going. Okay. Even the commercial we saw, the commercials are there to kind of, motivate you guys, kind of tell you, it's going the right way. Okay. Even more so, bring in maybe a leader, a CEO, have them give a pep talk, have them sit down with your teammates and say to themselves, this project is very important. Okay. But throughout our semester, we saw that, in communications, Some CEOs do not even care about the project. They just like, yeah, I know about it. However, I'm not really interested in it because let's go back even further. It's the cash cow, okay? It's the sacred cow that we care about. So there are some projects, especially when you look at the formation, the oyster, the bread and butter, and so forth. All these projects, they're more important than ours, okay? And ours do not get so much of a respect. So if you can bring in a sponsor, maybe even the customer, and tell them how important the project is, it can work a good way. Okay. So some informal techniques to rejuvenate, to kind of massage a team can work for you guys. There's also formal techniques there. You can hire an outside consultant to facilitate team building sessions to elevate team performance and clarify ownership. Okay. Whether the team has direct influence on the issues or different issues altogether. You can bring in, like we saw with Ajax project, bring in an HR consultant, let them see what we can do. Whatever it is, again, an HR consultant costs a lot of money. And I'm not gonna lie with you guys. You know what they're gonna make you do the first thing? They're gonna make you probably build a tower with spaghettios. Okay. That's what they're gonna do. Okay, they're gonna bring spaghettis from the supermarket, marshmallows, a tape, and say, here you go. Here's a team of 10 people. Put them apart, let them create something, and let's see how they can work together. I will analyze them for like $120 an hour and see exactly how they will do. And that's what the scenario is going to be given. Okay. So the idea here is to link team building activities and try to link it with, say, outdoor fun, maybe scavenger hunt. Okay. Go out into a conservatory area, make sure that you guys don't get lost, but hopefully make sure you have some experience outdoor, provide intense common experience that can accelerate social development skills of a team, and make sure that everybody likes to work together. Okay. But here's a curveball on working together. All right. And we are a good example of it. We are working remotely. Okay. You are in my domain, my office. I'm in your domain as well. Your office or your cubicle that you are learning right now. Some of you guys are learning in your home. Some of you guys are learning in offices. Whatever it is, the two biggest challenges is that we're dealing in managing virtual project teams. And this virtual project team phenomenon has accelerated in the last few years, because in the last few years, we have developed, a need to work virtual thanks to Zoom. Okay. 3 years ago, nobody even heard about Zoom name. Today, Zoom is like the end of be all. Okay. Zoom basically came in at the right time. They came in when there was a pandemic, we had a closure. Okay. And a lot of times we were discussing, myself as a leader, myself as a project manager, myself as a teacher, instructor, I was always saying to myself, what in the world would happen if, and myself, it depends on when you live in the world. I've seen different endemics. Sorry, we're currently in endemic. We're in epidemic. Okay. We have pandemic, which is pan world, which is COVID-19. But we had epidemics all over the place in the 2000s. Okay. If you guys recall, I'm not sure if you guys remember, before COVID-19, there was something called SARS, SAR. SARS? No. Yeah, SARS, SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. Anybody remember that?
Yeah. Wasn't that part of like bird flu or something?
That was later on, yes, but you're very close. H1N1 was in 2009. Yeah.
Okay, there's another one.
Yeah. So there were So between the year 2000 and the year 2020, I would say there was 4 major outbreaks that I probably know about. The first one was in 2003. 2003 was the SARS. SARS basically was was an epidemic. SARS, what it was basically was it was countered in specific areas. So mostly it was in Hong Kong and it was also in Toronto. Okay, but it was contained. People died. Okay, people died back then, and it was a big problem in Toronto. People were talking about let's wear some masks, let's do this, let's do that. It wasn't as a problem, but then afterwards, after that, 6 years later, um, there was another epidemic called the MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. It was mostly catered around the Gulf Arab states. So Dubai, sorry, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, maybe Iran, Mana. Did you guys have MERS? Maybe no. I believe, yeah.
Sorry, Professor, would you please again ask me?
Sure. Do you remember if you guys had MERS in Iran? The Middle East Respiratory Syndrome virus, 2009?
No, Professor, I don't remember exactly.
Okay. All right, but it was in the area. I believe some Middle Eastern countries kind of dodged it. But MERS was a big one. And then we had COVID. And COVID literally shut us down. But the reason why I'm talking about MERS and COVID and all this stuff is if we had this pandemic in 2003, how would we have dealt with a virtual team? Okay. And the reason why I'm asking about 2003 was I remember 2003 very vividly. And there was a lot of things that happened in 2003, and it only happened in Toronto. So number one, we had an epidemic. The epidemic was not in Vancouver or in Calgary or New York. It was only catered around, basically ground zero was in Toronto. Okay, so that was a problem. And then after that, we also had in the summertime, we also had something called the Great Blackout. And the Great Blackout basically shut the whole electrical grid in North America, in eastern part of North America, shutting down roughly about 200 million people, or maybe 150, 200 million, shutting them off the grid. Okay, so one grid was connected to another, and what happened? The whole thing went down. Okay, so I was working at that time, and basically all the electricity went down. There was no generator, there was no nothing. It went down, and I was working at that time for Rogers Communication, Rogers Wireless. It went down, we closed it, and because of communications technology, we did not know what was happening. We had no clue what was happening. So there was a scenario going on that said that, you know what, it was very close to 2001, which happened 9/11, which was a terrorist attack in New York and Washington. We found out there was another terrorist attack. It was a sabotage. Okay, and it took us a couple of hours or days to realize what was really going on. Okay, so you can imagine everything. There was absolutely no electricity. Your fridges were disconnected, no internet, no nothing, no lights as well. So a lot of times, if you were on the highway, what happened was that when you get off and there was lights, you had to make a emergency stop. Okay, and it was a problem. So it took me a couple hours to get home. And when I got home, again, I was living in a condominium. You had no elevator, and when you got up, it was really hot inside, and you basically, you had to fend for yourself. Okay, so these scenarios are like, well, what really happened here? Okay, and again, if I look back at it, the only people who actually benefited from it are people who had at that time, well, we had wireless technology for the internet. So I used to sell these small little PCDIs, which go into a laptop, and they have an antenna, and you can connect to the internet. And I sold it to one person who actually returned it back to me, but they told me, when we had the blackout, I actually went on the internet and figured out that it was actually a blackout. Meanwhile, we were all sitting down saying like, well, what happened here? Okay. But these scenarios are like, well, how would a virtual team exist in those days? So we start to look at the challenges of managing a virtual team. And when you look at a virtual team today, we can work in different hours. We can work much better, more productive. But years ago, it took us forever to do it. Okay. So the question is, if we had the pandemic in 2001 or possibly in 1995, we would not have the technology to be able to succeed in a virtual team. Okay. So 2009, I was 9 and had lost my grandpa. Just remember that bad loss. Oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. But nonetheless, yes, nonetheless, 2009 was the MERS, definitely. But in 1995, if this happened, virtual team would have been hard to manage. So the two biggest challenges in involving a virtual project team is number one, let's look at our team. Every morning, some of you guys are disgruntled with me. 6 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, you have to be with me, okay? But nonetheless, of course, I get a kick of coffee, and you get me on a roll. But some of you guys are in different time zones, okay? Jide, I believe you're in Nigeria, 6 hours ahead of me, so you're like 12 o'clock right now,
Yes.
or not 12, 12, 2 o'clock right now in
Yeah.
Lagos. 2 o'clock in Lagos.
Yes.
Then I have Mana. Mana is in Tehran, and in Tehran, I believe it's like 7 hours or 8 hours ahead. So 8 hours ahead would be 4 o'clock.
Yes, Professor, 8 hours and a half,
8 and a half.
4:30.
Ooh, I missed the half. Ooh, 4:30. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the 4:30. You'll be treated like a newfie in Canada. There's a part in Canada called Newfoundland. They're a little behind, and we always call them a little behind because they're an extra hour ahead of us, and we always call them extra hour lazy than us. Okay, but it's a very common inside joke of Newfoundlanders. We have Mana, and then I believe we have a lot of students. We have, I believe, Kush. He is in India. India is about 9 hours away. Mari, are you in the Philippines or you're in Toronto? Well,
I'm in Toronto.
oh, okay. Sorry. Mari's in Toronto. Milad is in Toronto. Who else is there? And then I got our gang from mainland China. That's about 12 hours away. So the time right now in China is, I believe, 8 o'clock. Can someone confirm that? Yifan or Yuan?
Hi, Professor. Actually, it's 13 hours.
13 hours.
Yeah, so in China now, today is Wednesday and 8:55 p.m.
Perfect. Okay, 8:55 p.m. And I believe the last but not least, maybe Genera. Are you in the Philippines? Maybe no. I believe the Philippines.
No, Professor. I'm in Toronto. I'm in
Oh, Toronto.
Ontario, Guelph.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have nobody from the Philippines, but Philippines is 13 hours away too, right? Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So as you can tell, guys, we are a virtual team. We're in multiple different time zones. Okay, from 6 in the morning all the way to about 9 o'clock at night, and our goal is to succeed in BUSI3613. Why? It's a project, okay? So you guys have to trust me, okay? You guys have to trust me. Number one, that I'm at least a subject matter expert, okay? I have to have some, communication. Unfortunately, to build trust, especially in a project, you have to have face-to-face communication at the beginning to orchestrate social information, to get to know me, to understand my teaching practices, to like my teaching practices, at least, okay? Definitely have to set clear goals with you guys. Make sure that we know exactly how to make this project, what we call the class, a little bit more exciting. Set rules, expectations, and that's what we did in week number 1. So we formulated teams. You guys not only are teamed together, all 22 of you guys are also working effectively within your own teams as well. So you can create subgroups where for the next, 4 weeks, you can work together even more aggressively towards your final project. So you formulate teams and people who have already worked effectively, if possible, to work even better and develop a good communication pattern. Okay. So again, the only form of communication, I cannot give you face-to-face meetings. Okay. Definitely would love to travel to Lagos, Tehran, Beijing, and the likes. But unfortunately, my time schedule cannot. So the only way that we can communicate properly is to be able to be in part of the communication patterns, okay, and develop effective teams altogether, okay. So our goal is that we don't let team members vanish, okay. We do not want somebody to leave, okay. We want everybody to stay. We create a code of conduct, okay, to avoid any delays, any mistrust, or any unknowns. We establish clear norms and protocols for surfacing assumptions and conflicts. Use electronic video technology to verify the work, and like we do with Zoom. And most importantly, share the pain. Okay, give us something for the pain. All right. And again, when you give something for the pain, you want to create a kind of a scenario to understand that internet is not the best everywhere. My internet may go down, yours may go down. Things can happen. So we want to make sure that we can understand each other and not go after each other because of things we cannot control beyond our means. Okay. But to give you a good situation here, what you can do is create a 24-hour time clock. And the idea here is if you have, and I gave you a scenario here, if you have 3 different teams working in 3 different locations, this is a good scenario for you guys to see where is the prime time to make meetings, where's secondary time that might be a little bit off, and downtime. Okay. So as you can see here, we have the United States, which is on Eastern time zone, my time zone. I'm currently at the 6 a.m. time zone, or right now it's 8. Okay. And you have another team, which is in Australia. Australia, again, is around 14 hours away. Okay. So 14 hours away means that it's 10 o'clock their time, which still is a little bit off because normally people start at 9 o'clock. And in Scotland, it's 5 hours away, which means it's 1 o'clock. So for example, if we need a freeway meeting, I would wake up at 6 in the morning, like I do every day, and have a virtual meeting with my team. Okay, this is a primary window. Who benefits here, guys? Well, in this case, Scotland gets the best of it because in Scotland it's only 11 o'clock. Okay, it's prime time for them, and in Australia it means they have to stay late at work to make the project happen. And in United States or in Canada, it's 6 in the morning. So we have to wake up a little bit early to do the task. Okay. Then what we have is we have the other way where, in when we go into work, it's 9 o'clock. And in order for us to have a freeway meeting, maybe we have a freeway meeting at 4 o'clock our time, which is 6 in the morning in Australia and 9 o'clock in Scotland, in Europe. And then what we can do is we can work it all together, okay? And the same thing shows you exactly where in gray you cannot do work, okay? Between 12 to 5 in the morning, that's off limits. And 11 onwards is off limits. So 11 to 5 in the morning, you cannot be functional, okay? And that goes for everybody. Okay, so this scenario actually worked for us, especially under COVID. Under COVID, what occurred was that when you look at COVID-19, you had a scenario where basically Australia started working on research. And then when they were done, they handed over to, say, China. China was done with it and then handed over to India. India was done with it. They handed over it to, let's say, somewhere in the 7 o'clock time zone, which is probably like Turkey or Greece. Okay. And then when Turkey and Greece finished it, they gave it to Spain. And then Spain's 5 hours ahead. Then they gave it over to North America. And then in North America, we have three time zones. So New York received it, then Los Angeles. And then when Los Angeles is done, then they gave the final work to Australia. And then Australia starts over again the next day. So because they did it really aggressively, that's how we developed the COVID vaccination. Okay. Because everybody was working their parts. They were completing it in small work packages, making sure it can be maintained, making sure that the focus is vaccination for COVID-19, nothing else. And everybody was doing their work and getting it done properly. Okay. So that was the miracle of the 24-hour time clock and organizing it properly to make sure that everybody can work all together. So there will be project pitfalls, guys. And in project pitfalls, what would happen is that sometimes we have something called a group think, which gives you an illusion that you're not invulnerable, but you are, because a lot of times if you do not think like the team, you can be held accountable for it. Some people may whitewash the item altogether. There will be critical thinking of it. Sometimes there will be some scenarios or issues that will be negative. You may have some stereotypes from outsiders that may create a little bit of nuances within your team. There might be direct or indirect pressure, and as a result, the team may fail. You also have a bureaucratic bypass syndrome where you figure out a solution, and because you figure it out, if you cannot be able to complete it, what happens here is that you deal with the bureaucratic bypass syndrome, where unfortunately, in this scenario, you're going to have a sort of parameter where you want to get to the next stage, but you cannot get to the next stage because you need authorization. So for example, you found a glitch, let's say in a glitch of Ajax, you found a glitch and you want to fix it, but you have to go through Trent, and then Trent has to go through the stakeholders, and the stakeholders have to approve it by their board of directors. And after all, you have time here, but it takes like 5 weeks to get a scenario. So you have to either extend it or cancel it, and finally start something different, so that by the time that you get to the scenario, you can hopefully get some solutions done. And because of that, it takes a long time and may delay the project and even fail it. Okay. So if you found some problems, you want to handle it properly and make sure that you have someone to deal with it all together. Okay. So a lot of times team spirit, sometimes which you like to work together, may become infatuated. And as a result, some people who liked you at first, then they get very frustrated, and it all results in conflicts. Okay. We also have the idea of going native, and going native means using something called NGT, nominal group techniques, to guide decisions and make sure that everybody's NGT is well focused and understood. Okay. So what I want to kind of talk to you guys about is the key terms that we talked about today. Some key terms, we talked about brainstorming. So coming in a team, one of the steps you can do is brainstorm. We mentioned that there's good conflict and bad conflict. We call it dysfunctional conflict, which we don't want, but we do want functional conflicts that do arise, and we want to deal with it properly. We want to have a group think so that we can bypass any pitfalls. And to do so, you can have nominal group techniques. We want to have a positive synergy going on. So the positive synergy will break down the work together. Everybody gives a 10 and we get the work done. We also want to create a project kickoff meeting so that we get to know each other and introduce everybody in the group. Create project vision for communication, ideas, different different parameters to make sure that in the dark tunnel we have some light to know exactly where the project is going. Team building exercises like we saw today, build a tower, build a team. And also we talked about virtual project teams, and we understand that virtual project teams are not going anywhere. Okay, they're going to stay. There's some things that are good about a virtual project team, some things that are not. Okay, not going to lie, people are fatigued. People are tired. Okay. Looking at a screen and looking at my face and hear me jabber the whole time, people will get tired. So we have to find new means. Okay. And it may mean that you can still work virtual, you can work remote, but you may be asked in a project team to come to the office maybe once or twice a week and at least have some face-to-face interaction. Maybe that will help you. Okay. So those are some scenarios that you may want to deal with. Nonetheless, before we split like a banana, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of building a team. So please remember, guys, in step number 1, when you're formulating a team, the idea that you want to do is orient the project, make sure that everybody understands what to do, not just say, hey, there's a project going on, I want to be in it, and then desert it. This leads to group process and group norms. This leads, of course, to testing people's dependencies, making sure that they can work together, and make sure that if they can work together, they know what to do, and they formulate a team. Congratulations. You can go to step number 2, which is looking at project activities, looking at people's emotional response to the project demands. Can they be able to handle it? Can they handle the pressure? Can they handle, my style, my leadership style? And this leads to group process and group norms. And in this case, in storming, we want to figure out intra-group conflicts. And this leads to the next stage on creating governance and rules altogether. We want to make sure we have an open exchange of relevant information. And definitely this leads to the group process. And in the group process, we look at the development of group cohesion. And in the next stage, we look at the performance. So in the performance, we want to make sure we have project activities, and performance is that we want to create solutions, outcomes for the project. And this leads to a group process to get us to the final stage. And that's where functional roles emerge so that we know who's the leader, we know who is backing up the leader, we know who's following with the lead, and hopefully taking us to the next stage where we finish the project, we adjourn it, we complete it, and nonetheless, all good things must come to an end, and we dissolve the group. Okay, so let's look at us. In the first week, we started formulating our group, our scenario in our class. We stormed our ideas. We looked at different norms. Okay, we performed it mostly in class. Okay, how we're going to be teaching and so forth. And in a couple of weeks from now, in I guess 5 weeks, which is maybe a month or so, we adjourn. We're done. Okay, we dissolve the group, and like all good things, our class must come to an end. Okay, so unfortunately, we have to split like a banana, and hopefully make sure that we can get you to the next stage in your college, university life. Okay. So to build a high performance project team, what I recommend you guys do is number 1, create a high performance project team. A project leader needs to find the right people. They have to recruit the right individuals. And then a number of key activities have to occur. They have to conduct project meetings, establish a team identity to make sure we have a name, we have code of conduct, we have everybody doing 110%. We create shared visions amongst ourselves. We build a rewarding system, okay, making sure that people, when they do the work, they get rewarded. We want to manage conflicts when it happens, healthy in a good environment, and rejuvenate the project team. Make sure that even in the worst days, the days when nothing's happening, we still tell them, listen, think about the light bulb, okay? Think about the tunnel. Once you put some light in the tunnel, you have a vision and you can pass through it. It may take you a day, it may take you a month, but as long as you have some support, you will have superior performance at the end of the day. And that's the most important part of your team. However, please remember there will be conflicts, okay? People will not be happy. And sometimes we saw this at Ajax. We saw that there was a problem with age. We saw there was a problem with different teams, different divisions. And we saw that there was a problem that didn't happen in the beginning, but resurfaced later on. So at the defining stage, please remember, within a project lifecycle, the most likely source of conflict will include your priorities, what comes first, second, and third, procedure, how to do it, and scheduling, when to do it. At the planning stage, the likely source of conflict will include priority schedules, procedures, technical skills, how to do it, and who does it most importantly, and the workforce, when they can do it. Okay. And at the execution stage, the most likely scenario will include scheduling it altogether, technical skills, the workforce on who does what, and priorities. But then at delivery, when you're almost done the project, the only likely scenario will be the schedule, the likely source of conflict, and where we're going on in the future. Okay. So nonetheless, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but like, what do you do about like people's personal feelings or like resentment or jealousy or stuff like that? Like scheduling and all this kind of stuff, that's kind of easier to mediate. But when you're talking about like in the Ajax project, for example, there's a lot of resentment in terms of the younger people were getting paid the same as the people who had like 20 years experience, which happens in today's world as well, right? Like people who have been in jobs a longer time now are getting paid relatively the same as people who are just starting, because that's what the market is calling for at the moment.
Absolutely. So again, there are things that you can control, and in this particular case, you could control in some scenarios the conflict, but there are some things in the conflict where you cannot. Okay, you cannot control demand in the market and the fact that people are getting paid more or less. But you could control some resentment. Okay, speak to them early on. Talk to them about what the issue is. Create a functional situation, a functional scenario. Okay, the goal for a project manager is to take a functional conflict, tell them what the problem is, and try to fix it as much as you can, so that the problem doesn't equate later on to a dysfunctional conflict. And in dysfunctional conflict, there will be a lot of resentment. In the case of Ajax, it turned out that people understood that there was a pay difference here. Okay, could it control it? Not really. Okay, but the pay wasn't the problem; it was the bonuses. Okay, and then when they saw that the schedule was not fair, they made that into an issue. And when they realized that the further we delay the project, the less bonus we get. It turns out that in the end of the day, we may not even get any bonuses. So all of a sudden, things that you had in the back of your head that you never talked about became in the forefront. Okay, so the question now is instead of ignoring it, instead of putting it aside, let's talk about it in the beginning so that any issues would not be resolved. I cannot stop any scenarios. Everybody's different. And especially in Ajax, there are some people who said to themselves, you know what? It was a good schedule. And then when they realize that, coupled with working with these people who are not professional, I'm working on, very stressful time schedule and so forth, it becomes a big issue. And because of that, that's where Trent is right now. And Trent asks you on what to do. So the way you kind of deal with it is trying to figure out where is the best situation and trying to mitigate it to see how you can deal with it in the future. Okay. All right. So like we mentioned, there are sources of conflict, and definitely you want to create the ground rules first so that any source of conflict will be taken away. And I want to show you some alternatives for that 24-hour time clock. So we showed you United States, which is the Eastern time zone, Australia, which is in the Pacific Oceanic time zone of the Australian time zone, which is 14 hours away, and then Scotland, which is in Western Europe time zone of 5 hours. So again, you can have different scenarios of who's going to work together. But if, for example, you had a conflict within these three teams, you can clearly have a three-way conference to try to deal with it. Okay. And the reason why that I like these particular time clocks is that there are situations where your company could work in a virtual remote team, and you can use it to work more progressively. Okay. So I want to give you my own scenario here. Okay. When I was an operation manager, I worked for a small company that had projects, but only had 6 projects within a year. Okay. So this particular company was known as a Blue Moon project. Okay. It happened usually every 45 days, I would say. 45 days, I would have to go into a new project. Okay. And the project is to talk with China. Okay. Talk with my counterparts in China so that we can produce our insoles, our shoe insole properly without a problem. So the reason what happened here is that we had a lot of conflict, and most of the conflict could have ended being dysfunctional because the language barrier, emails, and the way that their culture, my culture existed was completely off. Okay. So what occurred here was that in the first few projects we had, so every project is what we call a PO. A PO stands for purchase orders. So when we put the purchase order together, what happened here is that there will be some conflicts on who does what and how we get to the next scenario. Okay. So in the case of a purchase order, okay, the idea here is that whenever we look at the purchase orders, okay, the purchase orders are going to be in place, okay, where you create a purchase and then you get it a couple of months, a couple of weeks or months later. Okay. So in the first few purchase orders, we thought it was a mess. They missed out on sizes. They completely created a mess in the container. They didn't organize themselves. And what they did in their process did not equate to our process. Okay. And mind you, we are basically 2 different companies. We are a company that uses a source of service from a Chinese manufacturer. Okay. So we need to talk together here. Okay. So I realized that the first 3 projects were not very good. It was a problem. So what we had to look at is see exactly what we need to do to fix it. And what we decided that every 45 days, we would sit together and jot down our purchase order so that we can do it correctly. Okay. So again, the idea that we had here was let's sit down and let's talk about it. Okay. And unfortunately, there was a saying that China would work on our time zone. That wasn't true. Okay. We will have to work on their time zone. Okay. So what happened here was I had people who were working in Shannon in China. Okay. And in China, they were working on their time zone. Okay. So that meant that they were ahead of the time, my time. Okay. So we agreed that we would meet every 45 days at 9 in the morning their time. So 9 in the morning their time is about 12 hours ahead, as I believe one mentioned here. 12 hours ahead, which means that 9 a.m. China time would be 9 p.m. Toronto time. Okay. So what I had to do was very simple. I would go to work. Okay. I'm in the Eastern time zone. I started my work at 9 in the morning. I finished at 5 o'clock. Okay. And I need to be in my office. But the problem is that unfortunately, I cannot leave my office because I lived an hour away. So if I lived an hour away and got home by 6 o'clock, then come back, it's basically 2 hours to be back and forth. It didn't make sense. So between the hours of 5 all the way to maybe 8 o'clock, this is basically 4 hours that I would be around, especially in that day, I would be around my office. Okay. So near my office, there was, malls, supermarkets, whatever it was, I would be there. Okay. I would go to the gym, get some coffee, meet up with some friends, do some errands. Okay. Do something between 5 to 9 o'clock. And then right after, what I would do is I would go back to my office, and what I would do is I would work from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Okay, so we would have 3 different hours that we were working together, and what occurred in those 3 hours was magic. Okay, magic because we would be able to figure out a lot of solutions. We have problems in quality, we fixed it. We have problems in the way that they put a container, they fixed it. We have problems in financing, we fixed it. We have problems in transportation, we fixed it. Okay, so because we were sitting together, and at that time we did not have Zoom, we had Skype. We sat together and we had problems. Sometimes the internet went down. Sometimes my internet went down. We shared the pain, but we got to know each other. Okay, we got to know each other. We got to celebrate everybody's occasions, and we saw the difference. Okay, the first 3 different containers, 3 different projects, it was a failure. But afterwards, it was successful. It was beautiful. It was well done. And it was going how I wanted it. Okay. But the only problem is, guys, is that let's say on that day, okay, and I'll show you my schedule. On that day, it would mean that, and I'll bring that nice color. I would wake up at 6 in the morning, okay, and start my day by 8 o'clock. I would have to leave my house. So I'd be at work by 9, okay? And then right after, by 9 o'clock, I would be in my prime time between 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to 5, okay? And I would have to stay at work until 5 o'clock, and then I would leave my work. And when I left my work between 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock, I would do whatever it is. And then by 9 o'clock, I would come back to my office and we would have a meeting until 11. Okay. So by the time it was 11 to get back home, it took me an hour. So basically, I ended up coming home at 12 o'clock. Okay. And then the same kind of thing happened the next day where I couldn't take it off. So that meant that I would wake up again at 6 in the morning, be at work at 9 o'clock. Okay. And by 9 to 10, work. And I was done by 5 o'clock. Okay. That was my schedule. But it was only once in 45 days. Okay. But to give up my evening every 45 days resulted in productivity, resulted in less confusion, less conflict, and more success for my company. Okay. So I would give that up. And at the end of the day, I would be more successful at what I did. Okay. And these kind of schedules can help you in the future because definitely they can help your project if you're in different time zones. Okay. And definitely help understand the norms that are needed to make sure that those time zones are going to be in its place. Okay. All right. So nonetheless, guys, what we are gonna be talking about at the end. Don't forget, guys, to submit to me your midterm paper, the Ajax project. Now, the midterm paper is beautiful because if you do the midterm paper, if you do well in the midterm paper, yeah, thank you. If you do well in the midterm paper, definitely it's the same way I'm gonna mark your final paper. The final paper is different because there's no Ajax, there's no trend, there's no scenarios, and there's no questions. Okay. What you would do is you take a subject from our class, you look at the subject, and then you're going to be doing the final paper on that subject. Okay. So basically, you're taking a blank piece of paper, taking one line, and then using that to make sure that you make your paper correctly. Okay. So again, in the midterm, you're required to read the analysis of Ajax case study. The idea of this paper is for you to delve deeper into the concepts of the project chapter, sourcing additional materials, synthesizing the concise manner of how we want to demonstrate critical thinking. It's all about the keyword here, adding value. So add value to Trent. Make sure you can help Trent out and use the course content on helping it out, not regurgitating or repeating it. Think of it as a miniature literature review with some ideas from the company concept. So examples can be considered in the usefulness of scholarly work. And again, where to find scholarly work? Every single week, I give you articles. Those articles are mint. Okay, they're perfect to use. If you do not want to use them, go to Google Scholarly and you could find more information. Okay, this is primarily about reporting back on what the literature says. It's not an opinion piece per se, but you are encouraged and expected sometimes to critique the midterm paper and what you think about it, what the literature says to you. But first, you must tell me about the theory behind it, break it apart, and try to coordinate it with what we talked about from week 1 to week 5, or even 6 if you want. And the research, after you did the research, you can offer your opinion on it and how it applies through reflection, review, and closure to you and to your project leadership. Okay. The idea here is to prepare you for the final analysis paper at the end of the course. And if you understand the midterm paper, you will understand what to do in the final paper as well. Okay. All right. By that means, guys, we are done for today. I want to wish you good luck, not only in our midterm paper, but the other classes you have. I believe you have some midterms available. Before you guys go, first of all, good luck with a kitty cat in the background. I do want to give you guys all the hopefully thank you. I do want to give you guys all the videos that I've left for you guys. So as you guys know, I've did I guess you can call it, I've did the videos for our class. So every single video that's from week 1 to week number 5 now, and 6 even, is recorded. And I'm still recording it for you guys because I realize that some people have different internet problems, internet woes. So what I'm going to do right now is very quickly, I'm going to go to my account that I have on YouTube. And I am going to pick out under my YouTube account, if I may, my videos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link of all the videos that I have up until right now. And in the chat, okay, I want you guys to hopefully look at it and see what you're missing. And if you need it, definitely use it, okay? So just bear with me here. I'm going to write all of them together with a link. This is week 1 lecture. Next one is, where's the other one? Week 1. And this is week number 2. 1 second. Week 2 lecture. Okay. Then I have another lecture, which is week 2, week 2, week 3. Hold on. This is the scenario for that one. Whoops. Week 3 lecture. And that's the wrong lecture here. Good. The 3rd lecture, and then I have a 4th lecture. Week number 4, which is right here. Week 4 lecture. And on top of week 4, I also have week 5 lecture. Okay. So I have the 5 lectures. Okay. So what I want you guys to do, week 5 lecture. Okay. So if you guys look in the chat, I've given you all the lectures. Okay. So every video we had is available. And when we're going to end our class today, week number 6 lecture will be available, okay? If somebody can take a lead, copy it, keep it, and if somebody asks you in your team or in your class that they need it, definitely share with them, okay? It's open for everybody, okay? So I've kept all our lectures together. So it means that, if you want to look back at it, your internet went down, something happened, you can look at it, okay? So all 5 lectures are available for you guys, all right? Professor, I didn't get anything in the chat. That is because it's right here. Sorry, 1 second, I'll just do it once again. Depeche. It is right here, guys. You guys see it on the chat, all the links with saying week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Okay, good. So this is for you guys, okay? My gift to you guys. So all you guys can do, if you missed a lecture, your internet went down, something happened, look at it, check it out, and you'll be fine. All right. Anybody has any further questions for me?
Thank you, Professor.
You're very, very welcome, guys. Anything that I can highlight here for you guys? It's clear in here. All right. So, guys, you have until February 17th, which is in 2 more days, to submit to me the midterm paper. Please look at the rules, the regulations. Please submit it only on the Moodle. Okay. Make sure you submit it on time, and I will go ahead and mark you accordingly. Okay, guys? Thank you for joining us today. I wish you guys all the best. Hope you enjoy our videos. Hope you enjoy our lecture. And we're on the next half of the semester. We got 5 more weeks left, a month and a half. Let's get it together. Let's get it done. And let's enjoy the next few weeks together. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the class. Have yourself a good day and stay safe, stay warm, and stay in project management.
Thank you,
Take care.
Professor. Thank you.
Thank you, Milad.
Thank you, Professor. Bye. Thank you, Professor.
You're very welcome, guys. Have a good one and all the best. Take it easy and enjoy your day. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, guys. And if anybody needs
Bye.
me, I'll be around till 9 if you need me.
Thank you,
Take care.
Professor. Bye.
You too. Take care, guys.